So now what? What happens when a team known for speed, fireworks, verticality, and chaos decides that maybe chaos needs a little structure? That maybe it's not about adding more lightning to the storm, but about placing that lightning precisely where the storm will hit hardest? Because the Dolphins didn't sign Nick Westbrook by accident. They didn't stumble onto him. They didn't default to him. They chose him. When other teams zigged, Miami zagged. And not just for the sake of being different, but because something in this move hints at a broader intention. But let's back up. You've got a Titans offense that began the season stacked. Not promising. Not hopeful. Stacked. DeAndre Hopkins. Calvin Ridley. Tyler Boyd. Big names, big resumes, big expectations. So, in theory, there's no room for someone like Westbrook to emerge, right? Wrong. Because while the headlines orbited around the established stars, the ball kept finding Nick. In the red zone. In contested windows. In critical third down moments. He wasn't padding stats in garbage time. He wasn't getting scraps. He was becoming the guy they didn't plan on needing, but couldn't seem to play without. 9 touchdowns. 32 receptions. That ratio. Unheard of. Almost laughable. Almost offensive in its efficiency. But there it is. A stat line that should have belonged to a WR1, but instead came from a player who never once needed the label to justify his impact. And yet, here's the real twist. Even after all of that, Tennessee let him walk. Just like that. Poof. So what does that tell you? Maybe they didn't understand what they had. Maybe they thought they could replicate it, replace it, draft it. Maybe they were too busy looking at what he wasn't instead of recognizing what he consistently was. But Miami? They saw it. They saw a perimeter threat who doesn't rely on separation speed, but on timing, precision, patience. They saw a red zone weapon who doesn't flinch when the windows get tighter, when defenders start grabbing, when space disappears. They saw a receiver who finishes his routes, finishes his blocks, finishes plays. And so they moved. Quietly. Clinically. 2 years. $6.5 million. That's it. No bidding war. No media frenzy. Just action. Now here comes the next layer. This isn't just about what Westbrook brings. It's about what his arrival forces everyone else to become. Because now, Tyreek Hill isn't asked to be everything. Now, Jalen Waddle isn't stretched between the seams and the sideline. Now, Tua Tagovailoa doesn't have to thread a needle every time the Dolphins reach the red zone. There's a physical presence now. A boundary safety net. A guy who can box out, extend, absorb contact, and still make the play. It recalibrates the entire dynamic. And what's crazy is, you won't notice it right away. Not on the stat sheet. Maybe not even in the highlight reels. But it'll be there. That 1 3rd and 6 on the opponent's 12-yard line, where Tua doesn't force it into double coverage, because Westbrook peeled off his man and settled into the exact soft spot. That 1 4th-quarter drive, when the sideline needs someone to drag a defender and open up space for Waddle underneath. That 1 block on the outside that springs Raheem Mostert past the sticks. That's the point. You don't sign Nick Westbrook to change the entire offense. You sign him because he makes everything else work better. But sure, there's skepticism. He only had 32 catches. He's never broken 600 yards in a season. He's a WR3 at best. Fine, but ask yourself this. What does it say about a guy who scores 9 times in a year with barely 30 touches, while being the 4th option on most plays? What does it say when opposing defenses start assigning starters to cover him late in the season because he keeps ruining their schemes? What does it say when a player who doesn't get the volume still leads your team in touchdowns? Because that's not coincidence. That's reliability. And now that reliability is in Miami, where the offense isn't built on volume receivers, but on precision timing, on execution, on trust. And the trust? It's coming. You don't sign a guy like this without a plan. Mike McDaniel doesn't operate on whims. There's intent behind every move. And bringing in someone like Westbrook says something subtle but powerful. We're done trying to outrun every problem. Sometimes we're going to outposition it, outleverage it, out-execute it. And isn't that what the next step for this team looks like? Because for all the explosive plays, for all the 60-yard strikes, For all the flash and speed and razzle-dazzle, Miami faltered in the red zone last year. Miami stalled when defenses compressed the field, when the windows closed, when the margin of error disappeared. This is the correction. This is the pivot. Not loud, not flashy, not a name you'll see on jerseys flooding the fan shop, but a move that feels, unmistakably, like a message. We're building a team that finishes. Not just drives, not just games, seasons. And what of the Titans? They'll replace him. That's the hope. They have to. Van Jefferson will get looks. Treylon Burks might still find his footing. If he ever becomes what they thought he'd be when they took him in the first round, they'll probably draft someone, probably try to recreate that exact blend of length, strength, and subtlety that Westbrook brought. But they won't get it back.